inference must be done, how it must not be done. So, the Nyaya Shastra says there are 5 steps in inference. 5 steps are there. There is a proposition. Okay, so I just also write it down here. There is a proposition that you make, which is what you want to prove. You want to prove the proposition. There is a reason why you want to prove that proposition. That means there is some witness. There is an example which you wish to give for this particular thing. There is an application where you want to apply what you are saying, and finally you can prove. I'll take 2 examples and show you this. Let's say that I say that I want to make a proposition that there is a fire in that building. I want to say there is a fire in the building. Or there is a fire on the hill over there. This is the proposition. What is the proposition? There is fire on the hill. Now the question is, am I seeing the fire? No. If I see the fire, then it is perception. Then there is nothing to prove. Suppose everybody can see the fire on the hill, I don't have to give a big lecture and prove that there is fire over there. But the whole problem is the fire is not seen. But still I am saying that there is fire. So I have to give a reason. Because I cannot see fire, tell me how fire. So then I have to give it. What is the reason? The reason I say that there is smoke on the hill. Are you understanding this? There is smoke on it. Because there is smoke, I am saying there is fire, I am not able to see. Okay. I have to give an example. What is the example? Wherever there is smoke, there has to be fire. Like a kitchen. There is smoke, there has to be. And the example I give is a kitchen, where we all see smoke and firewood. And then I apply that. I say that since over here there is smoke, we can apply our reasoning and hence conclude, I am not writing all that now, that there is indeed fire on the hill. We never saw the fire, but still we are inferring the fire. Now all control what is inference? Simple example. Inference means we infer. So I'll just take another example and show you the same concept. My proposition is, I use a different proposition now. John is mortal. Who is mortal? John is mortal. So John is one fellow. One fellow's name is John. We say that John is mortal. Mortal means what? He'll die. Are we seeing John die? Maybe he is winning some Olympic gold medal. He is very fit. But still we say John is mortal. What is the reason we are saying John is mortal? Is it because he is in the hospital, he is in the ICU, we are saying he is mortal? No, why are we saying he is mortal? Very good, because he is a man. That's the point here. Because he is a man. That's the reason. And what is the example? All men are mortal. Like Napoleon Bonaparte, big people, Alexander the Great, whoever came, they are all dead and gone. All men are mortal. Like, whatever we want to use, Alexander, Napoleon. And we apply. We say that John is certainly a man, he belongs to that class of men. And hence, we conclude that he is mortal. So we don't see John die. Again, let's come to Darwin's theory of evolution. What did Darwin say? What was his proposition? Darwin's proposition was evolution of species. Right? Evolution of species. One species becomes another species. Did he see that happening? Did he see one species becoming another species? No. Why did he, speak about his theory of evolution of species? His concept of natural selection. That's what he wanted to say, basically. So we are going to look at Darwin very soon. Okay, so I'll come to Darwin. But before that, I want to really take this particular point a little bit more ahead before we actually, come. So in inference, there are 5 important questions that we ask. And we will apply all this on Darwin very soon. So you will see it happening. In fact, the next 45 minutes or 1 hour is quite interesting. So the first thing is jignasa. Jignasa means inquiry. Investigation of the proposition. Is all of the hill on fire everywhere or just a particular part? Then the first question is what? Is the whole hill on fire? Or is it that only some part of the hill is on fire? What do you mean by saying there is fire on the hill? Some share, doubt. Are you sure it is smoke? What if it is dust? It could be dust as well. You see from long distance. You're not sure whether it is smoke. Then your whole proposition fails. If it is not smoke only in the first place. There is some share, doubt. Then there is what is called as a capacity. That means to determine the example warrants the conclusion. That means somebody says that, is there always smoke where there is fire? For example, there are gas fires that don't produce smoke. That means, like a Bunsen burner you used. Does it produce smoke? Gas fire does not produce smoke generally. Right? Though I said kitchen, for example, the kitchen example is applicable only if you use wood. If you use gas, there is no smoke. From the fire, there is no smoke. Gas fires do not produce smoke. Right? So basically, so that's the next thing. Then purpose. That means, what is the purpose of discussing this? Okay, hill is on fire. So what? So anything that you say, there has to be some purpose. Why you are saying that? Why are you talking about it? Is it just to be avoided, pursued, ignored? क्या करना है उसके बारे में? What is supposed to do? And the final question is to make it certain that everything is false and it is settled beyond a doubt that there is indeed fire over there. And that's like the conclusion. Okay, so now let's go to something very important. So now I think I'm going to talk of something where I give you a small exercise as well. So you have to actually start work. So now just observe this discussion here on the board. In any inference, Nyaya says there are 3 terms. One is called as the major term, one is called as the middle term, and one is called as the minor term. Okay, what are the 3 terms? Major, middle, and minor. Okay. So the thing is, the major term in generally the proposition is supposed to have the major term along with the minor term. That is proposition. And in the reason, we have the middle term with the minor term. Are you understanding? That means in the proposition, the major is married to the minor, and in the reason, the middle is married to the minor. And then we have to show that the major and the minor, middle, are connected. But we have to show vyapti. That means we have to show that there is a state of pervasiveness between the major and the middle. Because of which, we conclude the proposition. So I'll give an example. Let's take this statement. There is fire on the hill. What do you think is the major thing over here? What are we actually talking about? What is the most important thing in our statement that there is fire on the hill? One word I am looking for. Tell me, in this statement, which is the word that would be major? Fire. Hill is not the thing. You can replace it by saying there is fire on the building. There is fire in the garage. The major term is what? Fire. Very good. The major term is fire. The minor term is what? Hill. Okay, that's not very important. Hill was never very important. Hill is the minor term. Okay? Now the interesting thing is in the proposition you are connecting the major and the minor, but there is no proof for it. That means it is not seen. Can you see the fire on the hill? You cannot. Because if you would see the fire on the hill, problem is solved. You are not seeing the fire on the hill. Is that okay? Now we will look at this second. There is smoke on the hill. Okay, so hill is the minor. So which is the middle term? Smoke. Smoke is the middle term. Okay. Now the question is, we have to see the connection between fire and smoke. Is fire and smoke always connected? That's what we are talking about, vyapti. That means pervasiveness. What is it? Pervasiveness. Pervasiveness, the question we are asking is, that which pervades and that which is pervaded, are they always connected? Okay, for example, the influence of fire and smoke. Smoke is the pervaded and fire is the pervader. Smoke is always accompanied by fire. The reverse is not true, I already said. Okay? But there are some examples where the pervader and the pervaded exist permanently, like fire and heat. Fire and heat. So, like for example, if you are traveling in something, in your vehicle, and the vehicle is heated up, you immediately understand it. So, you are worried, there's something on fire. If you are traveling in your car and suddenly you feel the entire car getting heated up, then you are afraid that perhaps something is burning inside, because of which there is fire and I am feeling the heat. So, you conclude. So, the intelligent decision is to stop the car, because how can you drive when everything is heated up like this unnecessary? You can't drive. You understand that? So the question is fire and smoke always connected? That means, what I'm trying to say is, this proposition is considered valid if somebody can prove that smoke cannot happen without fire. You understood? If tomorrow somebody proves that smoke is also possible without fire, then what happens? Our proposition fails. Because even if I see smoke, it need not be fire. Are you understanding this? Yes or no? That means the major term and the middle term have to be strongly connected to each other, without a doubt. If somebody can raise one objection, there is problem. Is that okay? Now let's see the next thing very quickly. In this example, can you tell me who is the major term, who is the middle term, and who is the minor term? Which is the major term over here? Mortal. Very good. Major term is mortal. We are looking at mortality of men. Which is the middle term over here? Man. Man is the middle term. And which is the minor term? John is the minor term. Because John can be replaced by Harry. And that's fine. Harry is also mortal. Not only John is mortal. Now, can we say that the connection between the major and minor term is permanent? Can some, that means if people can, that means are all men mortal? Just take it. Yes. So because of that, there is a permanent connection between these two. I mean, unless somebody says that John is not a man at all, I mean, he's not, then that's a different thing. But otherwise, is that okay? Okay, very good. Now I will come to some very interesting things. Okay. So now to the statement. So please look at this statement. All beings that live in the Himalayas are saints. Tigers live in the Himalayas and therefore tigers are saints. Now what I want you to do is, I want you to identify in this statement which is the major term, which is the middle term, which is the minor term, and tell me why this statement is absurd. Come on. Take a book. Come right. This statement, no, think about it, think about it. Please take your notebook and write which is the major term in this statement, the first statement I made, which is the middle term and which is the minor term. And then you have to tell me what is the problem. One second. I'll take it. Let everyone do. I want everyone to think about it. Take a minute. Very good. Can somebody help me? Yes. Which is the major term?
All beings.
Huh?
All beings.
All beings. See, try to understand what is nature. Major means what is the focus of this statement? Are we trying to tell something about the Himalayas? See, major means what? See, in the first problem, what were we talking about? Are we talking about the hills or we are talking about fire? Fire. In the second example, are we talking about John or are we talking about the fact that he's mortal? That was it. We are not talking about John. We are not saying because John has, so, we are not talking about John's personal life. John is not. So here, is the Himalayas the main thing. For example, if I replace the word Himalaya by some other hill, okay, would that drastically change the proposition? Not really. Okay, so what is the major term over here? Sales. The whole focus of this term is sales. And Himalayas happen to be what? Doesn't matter. Himalaya is minor. And then what is the middle term? Time. Very good. Okay. So we said that, so now the question really is, what is the connection between the major and the middle term? Are tigers always saintly? It's really difficult to accept. Of course, we have nothing against tigers. They are fantastic creatures, and for some reason in India today, the tigers are at the threat of extinction. There are only 2,000 tigers left in the wild. Those who are really intelligent and worried about ecology are worried about the future of tigers. If tigers are over, then your forest is completely gone, basically. Right? That's an indication. But certainly nobody will accept that the tiger is extinct. The tiger is considered one of the most ferocious because the tiger's tendency is, if it sees someone, that ferocious. So there is a saying in Bengali, Saap lekhi, Baag lekhi. That means, if it is, Saap lekhi means, if it is literally written in your forehead that you are supposed to be eaten by a snake will come and bite you. But otherwise it doesn't. But Baag lekhi, that means if a tiger sees you, you are finished. A tiger only has to see. That's all. Instinctively it kills actually. That's how a tiger is. Okay, so certainly this proposition is false. So this proposition is wrong. You are concluding something wrong actually. You understand? The inference is galat hai inference. Is that okay? Great, fantastic. Now let's go to the next one. And you have to again tell me what is the major term, middle term, minor term, and then you have to tell me whether this proposition makes sense. It may not or it may. Okay, look at this statement here. All Hindus are vegetarians because they all believe the doctrine of ahimsa. So now, a very interesting statement over here, proposition. You have to think a little bit and tell me which is major, which is middle, which is minor, and then we have to decide whether it is true, whether the proposition is true. Okay, everyone please think about it a minute. What is the major term over here? That's the real question. What's the major term? What's the focus? Very good. Vegetarianism is the major term here. You could replace the Hindu by Jain, by Sikh, by Buddhist. Doesn't matter. This is not the focus of the statement. The statement is not primarily addressing Hindu. It's not. It's addressing vegetarianism. That's the statement. Okay, so the major term is vegetarian. Great. What's the middle term? Ahimsa. Fantastic. For those who are not from India, ahimsa means non-violence. It's a very standard term because, there was, again I'm telling this for those who are coming from other places. One of the most important personalities of Indian freedom struggle, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, spoke of the philosophy of ahimsa. Ahimsa basically meant non-violence. Okay? And the minor term here is? It's a minor term. This is changing. Okay, now what we have to do is, we have to see whether in dono mein sambandh hai kya. That means world over, when people talk about non-violence, do they talk about vegetarianism? No, they don't. So the connection is not there. This statement is false. It's not. Are you seeing it? Because there are so many people in the world, like for example, I have encountered people from, especially in the Western world, there are groups called as PETA, Prevention of Cruelty to Animals and all that stuff. And many of these people, they are very much concerned about cruelty to certain animals like dogs, cats, etc. But every day, 3 times a day, they eat whatever they eat. So they don't see the connection between what they are talking in terms of ahimsa and everything and what they are eating. The connection. So this statement is not globally acceptable. that if somebody believes in non-violence, he should necessarily be with you. Because of it, this statement is considered. It's not considered. Very good. Now let's go on to the last part of my talk today. I'm going to go into Darwin's philosophy and talk about it. So Darwin's theory, again, as I mentioned, is what? Is it perception? Did he perceive? No. Okay, so I'll just go into the history of Darwin. Okay, a little bit. So let's have some slides on that. So this is Darwin, by the way, Charles Darwin. So Charles Darwin was a British biologist who was born in the year 1809, and when he was young, maybe in his 20s, he travelled around the world initially. And he mainly went to Amazon and many forests where he collected photographs of animals. And he kept all the photos. He collected, it is said, about 5,000 plus photographs of animals. He collected all these photographs and he began to infer who has come from who. And in 1850, he wrote this book called as The Origin of Species. In his book, he writes, I am a firm believer that without speculation, Anumana also means speculation. There is no good and original observation. After 5 years work, I allowed myself to speculate on the subject and drew up some short notes. These are enlarged in 1844 into a sketch of conclusions which seem to me probable. Do you see the language? Are you seeing the language? The language is completely speculative. You don't know what is speculation? But he's not very sure of what he's saying. See the words here. Speculate, seems to be probable, and so on. So let's see some writing from his book. So now he writes, this is from his Origin of Species, this book which he wrote in 1815. Okay, so page number 184. He explains how the bear became the whale. So he writes, in North America, I mean he's writing as if he saw, but he didn't see, remember. In North America, the black bear was seen swimming for hours. He's saying that the bear was swimming for hours. With wide open mouth. With wide open mouth, thus catching like a whale insects in water. Even